All right, let's take a look at the news. So this is pretty cute. This guy decided to store data in a bird. He found a bird that will repeat sounds it hears, and he took like a ping image and compressed it and turned it into a song, and played it until the bird memorized it. So, and I was just on Pulse Security Weekly, and there was other things going on, so I didn't say this, but this is how the human race preserved information before we had writing. We had sagas that rhymed, and you would memorize them, and things like the Bible and the old stories were just passed from generation to generation by memorizing these sagas, and they rhymed, which was error correction. And they had, so anyway. Portland, as you know, is being invaded by the U.S. military under Trump, and so they have declared an emergency World Naked Bike Ride as a protest. So they're going to go there and ride bikes naked, and I imagine this will probably get Pete Hegseth and the right-wingers all bent out of shape. I remember in San Francisco in the 80s when Reagan was really down on gay people, the gay people would go and just start making out, like it's where the politicians were going to be just to bother them, Anyway, similar kind of thing. Anyway, we'll see what comes of that. Perhaps we will have viral videos of ICE agents clubbing and arresting naked bike riders for disrespecting the president or something. I guess we'll see. So there's a video call recording app. I've wondered, sometimes I wanted to record something. Anyway, apparently you can install apps to record calls, which is probably illegal without permission of the other party, maybe with one. Anyway, in California, I think it's a single-party consent state. But anyway,
Party consent.
so as long as you agree, it's okay.
No,
You have to tell them, yeah. Yeah, I know whenever I call a company, they say, we're recording calls, is that okay? So it seems like it's a legal requirement. Anyway, as most of these spyware type things, they're idiots, and they were storing all this stuff in an insecure way, and so you could read your calls, transcripts, and other people's calls and transcripts. So they've taken the thing down for appalling security flaws, which happens to do a whole lot of other stalkerware. So there was yet another talk about a botnet that spread through infecting edge devices, routers, firewalls, VPN concentrators, which is now the number one way you people get in. More than infecting Windows or the end devices, it's now number one, they infect your edge devices. And I've been complaining for a year that there's no security on the edge devices. There's no antivirus, there's no way to scan it. Well, Mandiant made this thing called the Brickstorm Scanner, and this will scan your edge devices to see if they're infected, but you have to feed an indicator of compromise. So it's not an automatic tool like antivirus, but I'll have to check it out. It is something that belongs to my incident response class. We are using Velociraptor, which can scan edge devices. Well, it can scan endpoint devices for the presence of malware, but as far as I know, it doesn't have this ability yet. And his point is, now normally what they like to use is Yara. Everybody loves Yara in incident response. As far as I can tell, it's just grep. It just looks for patterns of text in files. And so if you know a pattern of text in the malicious files, you can scan and find them. But they say, even if you don't have Yara, you can run this thing. So I'll look at it. I imagine it's just using normal command line tools like awk and such. And of course, the problem with these edge devices is they typically run on BSD Unix, and they've typically stripped it down. And they don't have non-essential tools on there. So you typically only have a few of the Unix commands available. Anyway, it'd be interesting to see. I'd like to see if this thing actually works, how well it works. Right now, I would think you just want to write your own scripts, but maybe these scripts are better. So there was Free Wi-Fi Secure was some routers created this thing, free mobile subscriber service, and it turned out that they leaked your IMSI number. And apparently, I don't know that much about cell phones. Apparently, your IMSI number is the holy grail. If people have that, they can clone your phone, intercept all your SMSs and everything else. And these guys put it in the SSID or someplace public. They publicly broadcasted it for everyone who connected, which this kind of thing has happened before. They use something like your MAC address. Anyway, so it turned out they were broadcasting a number that really is supposed to be secret to everybody, and it was that way for years. And when they told them, they just shut down the whole project. So. Very similarly, these tile tags. Before there were air tags, there were tile tags. I think they were first. And I actually know somebody who knew these people and said it wasn't very secure, but they didn't pay attention. And now somebody has demonstrated it's, again, really not very secure. It turns out these tags broadcast everything with no encryption on the internet. and they broadcast to your MAC address, which I was very skeptical about that because this is actually a Cisco exam question. If someone goes to your web server, can you find their MAC address? And the answer is no. The MAC address is only on the layer 2 network, only in the same room. Your MAC address is not sent over the internet, not by the NITRET routing and switching protocols. But you could take that number and build it into data and send it off the internet if you wanted to, and that's what these guys did. So there was also another unique identifier, so that means they can uniquely identify the tags, and it means that Tile knows where all of them are at the central server, which they say they don't know, and it means you could stalk people. You could sit near them coffee house, find their MAC address, and then go to the server and find out where they're going all the time, which is the main concern with these things is, I mean, they're great to stop you if you lose your keys or your wallet, but what if someone was stalking you and they slip it in your backpack or in your car? Then Apple got worried about that, and they implemented a lot of defenses. It will warn you if a tag is following you around and it's not yours. And it'll even start beeping to help you find it and stuff, because they're aware this is actually a bad thing. You don't want to let it be used for that kind of purpose. But these Tile guys seem to be way behind on it. And in fact, the researcher told them about it in like January, and they just ignored him. They got
a warning today. AirPods following me.
Oh, you got an AirPod following.
On my phone today.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I haven't. Now, the one I've seen, it keeps on telling. I put an AirPod in my computer case, an AirTag, and it constantly tells me you forgot your computer, just all the time. Every time, if I put it in the trunk and I go to the store, it's like, what is the point? And when it starts coming out, it said, are these helpful? And I said, no, get rid of them. And it didn't get rid of them. It's just always popping up. You forgot your computer, just telling me this all the time. So anyway, I did read some good stories about people who put these in their luggage. I started doing that because people said they fly an airplane somewhere, they lose their luggage, they go there, and they say, I'm sorry, your luggage is in Pakistan. And they say, hell no, it's at your airport right here. I can see it on my AirTag. And that's a good idea. You know, I've got a few of them, and I put them on important stuff like that. Because, of course, whenever you travel, you're likely to lose your stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so this is pretty amazing. And this has been around for a while. See, location brokers are a big issue. And I remember there used to be a guy that gave a 3-hour talk at Every Hope about this. There are people that just sell incredible databases of all kinds of information about everybody. And this has become really public because one of them leaked it all about 6 months ago, a huge breach. Anyway, the point is ICE is now buying that data. And this seems to obviously blatantly violate the Fourth Amendment, but nobody seems to be talking about that. But anyway, the way it works is your cell phone provider knows where you are all the time. They have to ring your phone. They have to know what cell phone tower you're connected to. But more than that, every time you open an app on your phone, it has a place to put an ad, and it has an instantaneous ad bidding process. It sends a signal to hundreds of servers all over the world saying, hey, some guy just opened a browser, and here's a bunch of information about that guy, how old he is, his job, what other pages he's been looking at, how much would you pay to put an ad on that page?
So that's why LGI loads faster than everything else.
Yeah, well, they don't, not necessarily faster, but they do tell everybody a whole bunch of information about you, and they automatically respond and bid to how much they would bid to put the ad on the page. And the point is, therefore, they know where you were. They know what you're doing. They know everything. And remember, Papa John's did this. Papa John's is apparently run by Christians, and they're closed on Sunday. And so they had an advertising campaign that said, people can't go to Papa John's on Sunday, so we wondered where we go. So here's a map. They just showed tracking all their customers where they went. These many went to McDonald's, these many went somewhere else. Like, dude, you know, I would think you wouldn't want to like advertise the fact that you're tracking everybody, but every app on your phone is pretty much doing this. It's tracking you everywhere you go. And I think that's, I mean, the one question I asked, which is another one of those questions I never get a good answer to, is why do I have 50 apps on my phone? Why don't I just have a web browser and go to websites like I do here? Why do I have to put an app for every company when it's just a web browser? And as far as I can tell, the answer is so they can track you and sell the data. It's not for any benefit for you. I mean, you could just open a browser and go to their web page, and I don't know why you don't. Anyway, so this is it. Now ICE is buying all this data, which is gathered by these methods, and therefore they can track down where people are and such. The problem is there used to be something called the Fourth Amendment, where they aren't just allowed to harvest all the data in the world, but they're totally doing it now with automatic license plate readers, and now they have drones flying automatic license plate readers. So and if you remember, like the first Batman movie, In the movie, Batman turns on tracking all the cell phones to find the bad guy, and Arthur, his butler, says, you know, if you ever do this again, I'm going to leave. This is a terrible invasion of people. You should never do that. This emergency justifies it, but it should never be done again. At that time, that was a common belief in America. Now we seem to have completely forgotten this. Seems to be perfectly fine for ICE and everybody to just track us everywhere we go. Anyway, that's enough of the news stuff.